All right, so I know that it's a busy time for all of us, so I'm just going to get started. And like I said, it's a small group, and I am recording this session just so we can upload it to Grad Life as well as to our financial wellness website and our Instagram account. I know that there's a couple people that are here. If you want to just kind of type in on your chat and let me know if you're currently a grad student or what program, if you're a full-time employee, and then just we'll go from there. All right. And then um, I'm going to put basically it's going to be like it's going to be more like a presentation, not so much like it's going to be like what I would say a reflective workshop. So I'm typing in the 7 tips that I'm going to go over in this presentation. So feel free to reference that, and I will definitely be making the PowerPoint available on the Grad Life website and so forth. So here we go. All right. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and I'm just going to kind of walk through everything. And if you have any questions, feel free to put them on the chat and I will download them and then I will follow up at the end. And if we run out of time, which I don't think we will, because it's again, there's good information, but it's not like tedious. I will follow up with that as well through email or however is the best way to connect with you all. All right, so. Cool. All right. If at any point, hold on, let's see. There we go. Just making sure I can see you all still. All right. So if at any point I lose connection or anything like that, I will come back. If at any point you need to leave, feel free to do that as well. So like I said, we're recording this, so you can always refer it back. So like I said, this is a financial wellness workshop, more like a presentation, I would say. And we're just going to go over some strategies that some of my colleagues across various universities are suggesting our students to go through and to consider, whether it's for themselves or family and students. I want to stress that right now we are using this term called financial wellness rather than financial literacy, because to me, financial wellness brings everything into perspective. It brings everything holistically. It's not just about the fact that we need to understand how to manage our money. It's more of like, how does money impact our everyday behaviors and our everyday actions, as well as our families and so forth. So it's a new word that we're using right now in higher education. I think it's a great concept. I actually think it's more holistic versus just about, how do we get out of debt and how do we make money? I mean, I think we all want to do that, but at the same time, it's also important to think of the well-being of it as we're navigating these systems. All right, so again, just want to stress that it's about the practicing and evaluating and adjusting. So making sure that we are, being cognizant of our actions, but also ensuring that we're in control of these things and that we will hopefully be able to manage and make some decisions that will help us through the long run. All right. I just want to take a moment that, all of us are experiencing different circumstances. I'm also not an expert in this. If anything, I'm more of a person who really just wants to bring in different variety of tools and lessons from other people that are doing and bring it into the forefront. So I truly feel whether you're a grad student, a law student, a PhD student, even undergrads, I think a lot of you already are managing certain things and are navigating that on your own, and you're probably experts and so forth. I think if anything, it's just more of the fact that we're experiencing a lot of uncertainty right now, and whether it's impacting us directly, us personally, or it's impacting around us, whether it's our family, our friends, or just our communities and wherever we are. Like I said earlier, I'm just going to go over through some tips of managing your finances. Specifically, these tips were graciously shared and given to me by some colleagues at UCLA and UPenn. And I think they made total sense. And I think it's just something that can be useful to us as students. I'm also a doc student at USD. Not only do I work full time, but I'm also navigating these systems as well. And then just a reminder of campus resources. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to type those in and I will answer or follow up with those at the end. And we'll go from there. Like I said, I'm going to go over some tips. And then just if you are more of a visual person, if you want to kind of do a little mind mapping as you're going, feel free to do that. This is a tool that I use always that seems to help me as I'm listening to presentations as we're going. And like I said, I'm just going to go over some 7 tips. And again, if you forget about those, we are going to post them in many places that you can always reference them back. All right. So the first tip that various colleagues and now a lot of universities and even USD is that we want you all to stay informed and stay safe. Basically, what we mean by that is that, the fact that there's so many people navigating a lot of systems right now. There's a lot of scammers, unfortunately, right now. If anything, we want to know that our information is up to date. We want to make sure that what is going on, what is being said, but at the same time recognizing it could be, is it informative? Is it fake? Is it truth? So again, recognizing to stay up to date as much as possible. And that's been something really new for me in terms of like going into different websites as well as different just different sources of information. So for instance, like banks and Wall Street and, a lot of financial newsletters that I have a hard time sometimes understanding myself, but again, asking some of my friends who are in the financing world to kind of, suggest those as well. So, but the biggest thing that we want to stress is to protect yourself or family members from scams, because that's a really common thing right now that's happening, unfortunately. I know I'm seeing it a lot with our elderly community, but I also think it could impact us as students, especially when we're navigating, the job search, we're navigating, apartment hunting, or we're trying to just, figure out the next steps for us. So making sure that we're protecting ourselves. I think the biggest thing that I want to stress is just the website. This is the U.S. government, and essentially it's an opportunity to post any potential scamming, promotions, or just people that are contacting you through phone, through email. You can report these individuals, these services, as well as kind of get a list of what's been listed already in terms to keep your eye out. And I thought that was really important for us to kind of make sure that we're doing that. The biggest thing that I've been doing myself, and something that even a colleague of mine who works in the banking industry has said, is to make sure that you're always constantly checking your accounts, whether it's going online, so specifically your banking accounts, or if you need to go to the bank in person, you can do that as well. But I think that's the biggest thing right now, is that because we're doing so much virtual learning and working, unfortunately, we do have a lot of tech savvy folks that are going through Zoom and our videos and taking our information out and so forth. So we need to make sure that you're protecting yourself on that. Again, just a picture of the website. Again, it's super easy and it's super informative, and it's something that you can always even share with your friends and families. The second tip is to reassess your financial relationship. And what that means is basically to really just take into perspective of what is happening right now and what is in my control. So for instance, maybe we're in a position where some family members of ours are helping us financially. Maybe, when I was a full-time grad student, I had a relative who helped me out to pay rent for when I was navigating school. And if this was happening right now at that circumstance, I would probably want to have a conversation with that relative and ask, like, are you financially able to still help me out and pay my rent and help me pay my rent? Because maybe they're not. And so I think whether you have, individuals helping you out financially, I think it's important to have those conversations, whether you're a domestic student or international student. Those are hard conversations to have about, like, what can we do in order to still help you as you're navigating school, but at the same time, how can we help so that all of us are taking care of ourselves and we have a roof over our head and we have meals to take to feed us. The other thing is right now, maybe you're supporting your family yourself as you're navigating school, and maybe you might be working full-time or part-time, or you have an assistantship on campus or an assistantship somewhere else. I think that's something to really think about if you are supporting family members, or maybe you have your own family as well. Maybe you have a partner and you have children. What needs to be covered, and what is my biggest priority? And that's that's a big if of like a big wonder of like, how am I going to navigate that? And it can seem overwhelming, but I think that's something that you always need to be constantly thinking about. And of course, if you have lost a job, or you know of relatives right now, unemployment is the biggest thing right now. I do know that unemployment is the filing of it is even complicated. The server goes down, and so forth, or maybe people just don't know how to navigate that. But my understanding is that it's getting slightly better. I'm not saying it's the best, but again, recognizing that unemployment is something that individuals can take advantage of and utilize. But we also recognize that it's very frustrating and overwhelming in that process. I think the other part is just the step number 3 is to kind of assess your financial outlook and plan. So for instance, a lot of us, I know when I was a grad student, and even now as I'm working as a working professional full-time and also going to school part-time, I have a lot of financial goals. I would like to own a home someday. I would like to clear out my student debt. I think right now I'm really taking into perspective of like, what is my immediate need right now in terms to month. What are some things that I don't need to continue doing in terms of purchasing things? What are some things I need to continue making sure that I have in my life? Which is interesting because I know right now I've been also working remotely and also going to school remotely, and so I'm not spending a lot. But at the same time, I'm also recognizing that I am spending a little bit more in terms of groceries, maybe not gas, but paying a little bit extra here and there and so forth. So being cognizant of some of the things that I've already been doing already to save some money, and whether it's $20 to $100 or maybe $500 since we've started this whole situation of COVID-19, that maybe I don't need to continue and go to Starbucks when I was working on campus every other day. Well, I'm not really a Starbucks person. I'm more of a milk tea boba place, but maybe I don't need to go back to that. Maybe I can do that once a month versus every other week and so forth. But again, recognizing that the goals that we probably had for ourselves, we might need to make some changes or reevaluate when those goals can actually fully happen for us. And again, like I said earlier, the best possible advice that I can give you right now is that we really need to look into perspective of what is in your control, and then to make a plan for the future. And that future can be next month, it can be in 2 weeks, it can be every day, and that's so forth. So recognizing that it can look different for all of us. The other thing I want to stress is something that we've been talking a lot about in terms of my colleagues who are trying to help our students with their financial wellness, is really looking at our budget. And I know that sometimes that's scary. A lot of us rely so much on using everything online and monitoring it. Now, I'm one of those people that writes things as well as uses my accounting on my account online. But I want to physically see what I'm spending and how can I adjust certain things. And I think that's something that's really important for us to recognize, that utilize tools, obviously, that are, like apps and computer easy to accessible. But at the same time, I think it's also important for us to really physically write things so that what is actually things that are impacting your budget, what are things that you need to continue to make sure that, oops, there's a spelling error that I noticed, need to fix that later. But just recognizing that there are a lot of things that are coming, that expenses that we've either need to make sure that we're still maintaining, as well as things that we probably don't need to do right now and so forth, especially since knowing that a lot of things are still not available for us to use, for instance, like gyms and, eating out and so forth. but at the same time recognizing that maybe we do want to support, the independent and local businesses. So again, it's a lot of reflection in terms of how do you want to adjust this budget, and how is this budget going to continue for you as you navigate these next steps. I think the biggest advice is, as well, that I've been getting from some of my colleagues who are working in the financial world is, if you maybe really want to start saving right now, which is something that individuals have been considering, of like, I would like to have an emergency fund, because a lot of us actually don't have emergency funds. A lot of us maybe cannot have an emergency fund because we live paycheck by paycheck. But if you do have the means, the big buzz right now is to put, if potentially if you have an amount that you would like to put into savings, is to put it in a high yield savings. And right now, the biggest push is the online banking companies, specifically LA Bank and Marcus. These banks online, the savings account, a high yield, offer a very high percentage. So for instance, as the money is sitting there, you get paid a little bit more versus the banks that are the big names like Wells Fargo and the big names like Bank of America and so forth. But I'm not saying that you need to switch and change it completely, but it's just something to see and know that these are some options. And so again, I put some, I'll make this PowerPoint available, and I did put some websites to consider, and it really explains, Investmentpedia talks about, why people are considering these high yield savings as a potential way to put into savings. And again, the cool thing is that you don't need to, cancel it eventually, but you can always use it in the near future and so forth. So just know that that's an option for you all.
I have a question.
Yeah, definitely.
I can interrupt you, sorry.
No worries. What's up?
Do you know if I can do this with US Bank, or is just these specific banks that you put in there?
No, you can do it through US Bank. US Bank definitely has savings accounts. It's just the biggest thing is the question is that if you want to open it, the US Bank is asking them, what is the percentage I'm going to get if my money stays, if I don't use it, that sort of a thing. So
okay.
That's the question you want to ask them. So, but because the online banks are raising those yield numbers, there's a great chance that US Bank might actually meet that same number, so you can get more money. So, yeah.
Okay, and at some point I talked with US Bank, and they told me that if I put like a certain amount in my savings, I will be charged more, like in terms of taxes.
Yes. So US Bank does that because that's a policy that they have. So whereas if you do the ones sometimes online, because the ones on, like I know LA Bank online won't charge you. They'll so it depends how much they charge you. So for instance, like my bank does I get like I think I get like 5-cent charge every month of some sort in my savings. So just it's really just asking them, well, how much is that charge going to be, and so forth. But yeah, the big banks can do that because that's something that they've been doing that. Whereas the independent online banks, which are the ones that I mentioned right now, they don't seem to be charging right, and especially right now in the circumstances that we're in, they're not charging right now. So
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for asking. Cool. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. If another question comes up, feel free to ask, okay? All right. Oh, step number 4, I again just want to wrap up, is just to make sure that if you have an income right now, or if you don't have an income, you're going to have to just be mindful of how you're going to be using that income, and making sure that it is manageable, basically. So, all right. So step number 5. So kind of going back to your question about, you sounds like you're going to US Bank, is I think right now really is just, I think it's great that people are going to the banks and asking people questions that they want clarification and so forth, because I think that's something that we forget, that our banks actually have these fees sometimes that sometimes maybe they won't be charging us right now. Maybe they're going to put a hold on it. Like I know Wells Fargo sent an email out and saying like we're going to put a hold on fees for the next 2 months, but then they tell us when those fees are going to go back up. And so again, there's different opportunities to just kind of develop a different relationship as we navigate our banks, basically. And then the other one is student debt. So something to know is that student debt is a big topic right now. And so I know that some of our international students sometimes, that debt will probably look very different because you're not taking the federal loans out that our domestic students are taking. But maybe you have a debt in some shape or form. So right now, the beauty is that if you are a U.S. citizen and you are concerned and graduating, if you're concerned about paying off your debt, the good thing is that once you graduate, so for instance, if you don't have any friends and you know that they're graduating, they just let them, especially domestic students, that they don't have to start paying their student debt and their payments until November, December. So they have a 6-month, what we like to say a 6-month grace period. And then if they took a loan out within USD loans typically have a 9-month grace period. So what that means is that they will hold off on the payments to take from you for 6 months, and they will tell you, like they will remind you. But the thing is, rather than if for some reason you recognize that, I'm not going to be able to pay my first payment when it comes to November, December, or at the end of the 9 months if I took a loan out from USD, making sure that you talk to those loan providers and let them know, like, I cannot make these payments because of such and such and such. And I know that can be awkward to make those phone calls, but you don't want to get especially for our domestic students, you don't want to get into the creditors systems, and then all of a sudden you start getting all these phone calls and it impacts your credit score and it impacts like other future things and so forth. So I just want to stress that debt is possible. And then if you know of any friends or family members that are paying any federal loans here in the US, they actually have told them not to pay anything unless they want to. I mean, you can still make payments on your loans, but it's just voluntary. It's not required because they put a hold off until September. So I know some of my friends who are no longer in school are very thrilled for the September deadline. They're like, yes, I am not going to have to pay for anything right now. But yeah.
Actually,
yeah.
I'm international student, so I don't have any debts, but I think like here is crazy how students need to pay a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm from Brazil, so there we have like public universities that are super good. And
really?
Usually students don't have, unless you go to med school or something like
Gotcha.
that, they usually don't have any debts.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, I'm very jealous of some of the international systems because I think we can do better in terms of our especially our grad students. The amount of debt that they take on in order to go back to school, it's pretty high. And I'm one of those people too, but I keep reminding myself, like, it's an investment, but it's still a hard investment to do.
Yeah, no, I think like all my classmates, all of them have loans to do grad school, and it's crazy.
It's very crazy.
One person because I studied at Croc School, and even the staff, they are still paying their debts from like years and years ago. I was like, oh my God, this is so crazy.
It's a long time. It takes it's pretty much like a house investment here in the US. It's like 30 years or maybe even more. So yeah. I know. But again, I think it's important for anybody just to know what some of your friends are going through. So like if you hear them being like, I'm freaking out, it's like, well, hey, like remember that you can actually hold off. And especially like I think sometimes especially if they're graduating right now, I think they might forget, oh, I actually don't have to start paying until November or December because I have 6 months that they're on hold. And then hopefully they can get a job, because I know right now jobs are really iffy, and I get it. It's hard. It's really hard. And I'm grateful that I'm working full time, but I also know that I work at USD, and we're experiencing a lot of hardship too as well. So it's just a lot of stuff. And I think something, for you or any of your friends to know is that if you are using credit cards, because I know as grad students, we actually rely on some of our credit cards to help us get through our day
Yeah.
to day. If there's any way to not, rather than increasing that usage, maybe just to maintain whatever you're using those credit cards for, to keep doing that. So, because I'm noticing right now, there's a lot of sales of like, yo, there's these discounts for soap, there's these discounts
Mhm.
for this, and I know there's a big push for purchasing face masks, and which I think is important, but I think it's also something like, rather than buying other amenities, since none of us are actually going out and about, maybe buy what you need online. So for instance, like if there's different things that you buy from Amazon because it's like your shampoo or something like that, like maybe continue doing that, but maybe don't add the extra stuff of like, oh,
Yeah.
I want chips, I want, I want
Yeah,
all
that's what I'm thinking right now because I'm just at home. So I was like, oh, maybe I should not eat that much.
Exactly. But I think that's so hard. And that's even something I've been telling some of my undergrad students, because I work with undergrads at USD, and being like, because a lot of them are like, oh, I have this credit card and I can, it's like, yeah, but remember, you're going to have to pay it back. So if you don't have to use it, then don't use it. So.
Yeah. And about credit cards, so I don't have one yet, but I know that the US bank already offered me one.
Uh-huh.
So do you know if the tax that I need to pay is different, like to each bank, or it's kind of like a federal tax, like
No,
a
it's
credit?
different through each bank. So,
Ah, okay.
what you need to ask on US Bank, if they offered it to you, is asking them what is the credit interest rate that they're going to charge you. And so obviously the lower the number. So if they say like, oh, for the first 6 months, it's zero interest, that's phenomenal. That basically means that anytime that you purchase something, you're literally just paying. So for instance, if you bought like books
Just
that cost you $150, you just have to make sure and pay that $150, and
yeah,
you don't get the extra taxes on there, basically. So.
yeah.
So yeah, but the interest rate is what you need to ask them, is like, how much is the interest rate going to be if I start at zero? And then if it's like 1 point something, that's good. But when you start reaching the 3 point something, that's the ones you're like, I don't want that
Okay.
one.
Good to know.
Yes. So, but yeah, ask them as much questions as you need. Especially US Bank is actually pretty good about their rates. Their credit card rates are pretty decent.
Yeah.
And especially right now, because they're not as big as like Bank of America or Wells
Hmm.
Fargo, or and even Chase Bank. They're
Hmm.
trying to keep their credit cards manageable, and they take pride that they work with students. So.
Yeah. Well, actually, because US Bank, we have one at USD.
Uh-huh.
So for international students, it's easier because I didn't have to pay any. I basically
Good.
didn't do anything to open my account. I think
That's
just
good.
my passport, and the bank is there, so it's super
Yeah.
good.
No, I think that's a great. Take full advantage of it right now. I think right now they're actually closed because of the circumstances that we're in right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But once they open, I think it's okay for you to revisit them. And I also know they've been checking email. So if there's like a way to
Mm.
contact them through email,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. And then the other thing, just to kind of let you know, is that, well, actually, this is more for domestic students. I'm not even going to go over that. So. So I don't know, for you or even some of your friends right now, what they've been saying is like to invest. And so what I like to say is that I think, international and domestic students can invest in whatever the stock market is.
Yeah.
And so right now it's a hot thing to do that because the stock market is so low right now because of the virus. People have been encouraged, if they have the means, to invest in some kind of a stock. I don't know which ones are those, and that's something that even I was asking some of my colleagues in other schools, being like, so how do we suggest if none of our students have ever invested? And so they're basically they've been saying is like, well, the banks have people there already, so you can always go to, so like for instance for US Bank, if that's something you want to do, you can go and ask with US Bank and say like, do you have someone that can help me, can answer questions on investments? And so they'll walk you through that and so forth. But if US Bank doesn't have that, other banks have that, and any of the big names like Bank of America and Wells Fargo and Chase have investors there, and they'll walk you through that and what that sort of means. But I've been telling students that whether it's their family members who are doing this or them themselves, just to educate themselves as much as possible, and just to make sure that they find people that know the language, because the investment is just a very foreign thing to me, and I'm still kind of trying to understand what that is. But I do know right now, if people are comfortable to invest, it actually is a good time, and because the stock market can really flourish if people are investing more. But it also means, because of what's happening right now, whether here in the US and internationally, the stock market could potentially crash too as well. So again, it's knowing like, do I invest with the possibility of slightly making more money in some way, shape, or form in the future? Or do I invest knowing that there is this uncertainty that the stock market can go down? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, actually, I heard that a lot, that a lot of people are investing, even in Brazil. Like, my dad said that a lot of banks are calling people to ask them if they want to invest. And even my boyfriend, he invested a lot. And I was like, oh my God, do you know what you're doing? Because this is so complicated.
It is. It's very complicated. And I'm still learning about that stuff. And I'm just grateful that I have a friend who's been able to help me. But I'm investing in small things.
Yeah, I will know. Yeah, and actually, he was investing also in companies that he knows that are good. Like, I don't know, maybe Google or something like that. This kind of company, not just random stuff. But like, about that, so do you know? So should I talk with my bank and then invest through my bank? Because I have the impression that my boyfriend just did by himself.
Yeah, no, you can do it online. Like, you can just go if you have people that have already done it, they can do it on your own. The bank, it's more for people that's just more like of a safer precaution, but no, you can do it online. So
Okay.
yeah. So I would say, since you already have people that do it, seek them out.
I don't know, because I'm afraid of these things, but I'll have to think about it. It's a good opportunity, but at the same time, if I invest, I think I will not invest much.
Yes, exactly. You can play it safe. It's okay to play it safe right now.
Yeah.
And again, like, I just want to stress, like, all of it, kind of like you were saying, like, we all need to be comfortable in terms of how we're doing this. And so if it doesn't feel right, don't do it. If you're feeling pretty good because you have people that can answer some of your questions, or you just have people who have done it themselves, then I would say, go with that gut. I think at this point, I've been telling some of my friends and even my family members and my students as well, especially since I work with so many undergrads, is that do what's best for you. So if for some reason you choose not to spend nothing besides making sure that you're paying your rent or your mortgage, or the groceries, your subscriptions to, like, for Netflix and all that stuff. Then if that's what you need, that's what you need. Like, I've been trying to tell people, like, just because COVID is happening and it's not going anywhere anytime soon, doesn't mean that you need to make, big life decisions in terms of, like, like, for instance, I want to invest in the stock market. If you don't want to do that right now, maybe next month you can do that. Maybe in 2 weeks you want to do that. So, because I want to stress that all of us are going to navigate this very differently too. So, for instance, like, maybe some of your friends from your program are probably being like, nope, I'm doing this. And you're like, okay, good for you. I'm glad you're doing that. But if it doesn't sit well with you, then it doesn't sit well with you. So I just want to stress that. And also just making sure that, like you said earlier, like, some of you, especially in the grad student community, there's a lot of international students and we have a lot of domestic students. So recognizing that some of these services that we have may be very specific to US citizens and not international students. But I also know that, if there's opportunities, especially like the free ones, so like all these apps that they have and all that stuff, like a lot of the free apps actually tell you, like, oh, this is for just domestic folks, or this is for international, or this is global essentially. But I think right now a lot of banks have been trying to really make sure that all their services are for everybody, so not just the domestic community and so forth. So that's something I want to just kind of stress. And so on this PowerPoint, I put just like free apps to kind of take advantage of, and that kind of help manage certain things, especially because right now I think the biggest thing is the fact that, like you said earlier, like, you're not spending a lot, and neither am I, but I want to make sure I don't just because things are starting, the lockdown is starting to let a little bit loose, I don't want to start spending more. Like I want to keep spending what I've already been spending.
Yeah.
So these apps have actually been helpful. I use Mint, but right now sometimes, depending on the day, I forget how to use it. So,
Okay.
but Mint's a good one. It synchronizes with your bank, and so it comes up with like, so like for instance, if you want to put a budget saying like I only want to spend this
Oh,
amount on this day, and the app will ding you and because it'll connect with your bank and or
I
with your debit
totally
card,
need this.
and it'll tell
I'm
you.
super bad with my budget.
Yeah, so that's a good one. Mint is a popular one, and I've been using that for quite some time. Right now, just because I just want to physically write something, that's been helpful for me. But Mint has been something that you can connect through your bank accounts, and you can set up alerts and so forth. So you can give yourself like an allowance basically for the day. So
And it's safe to connect with my
yeah,
bank account?
oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, Mint is 100% safe. Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I can't say 100%. It's been safe for me. So.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
no quorums with Mint at all whatsoever. So,
Okay.
and then I don't know if you follow different people on Instagram or if you have an Instagram account, but there's a lot of cool people out right now via Instagram who are really just talking on trying to educate mostly people of color. So now recognizing that the biggest population of people that are being impacted due to the circumstances of COVID and unemployment and loss
Yeah.
of jobs is the our populations of African Americans, Latinos, our immigrants, our Asian
Yeah.
community. And so there's a really cool movement right now happening where there's a lot of these powerful, very, 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 very intelligent women who are giving free advice on financial well-being. And so this is one person in particular who I've been following on Instagram, and she's actually nationally recognized. Um,
Oh.
and so she like, and she's getting a lot of buzz right now because Oprah just signed her up to do like a TV series on her channel. So
Oh my God.
she's pretty big, but visit her website. She's got some cool stuff, and she actually talks about how to invest if you're the first time investor
Oh,
as well. So check her website out. She's a really great resource, and I really just love her energy. And she's real. Like she's been her live streams on Instagram are funny, but they're also very like they're just straight up real. Like saying like whether you're an international or domestic person, like the reality is this sucks and we got to figure out how to figure this out. So
yeah. But like, do you think so? I want to ask you that. So I don't have much knowledge about finance and this kind of thing, but I want to learn because I feel like I'm super terrible, and I want to learn.
yeah,
So
yeah.
do you think like the like kind of this person, she's more
Oh
like
yeah, she does.
basic level
Oh yeah,
that I
she
can
does.
understand
Yeah.
because I never did anything with
Yeah.
this.
No. She's a great resource. What I love about her is that she's offering free online classes right now. So they're pretty
Oh,
popular because they're free. And so she's capping them. But if you go to her website, she actually has been offering like free online, and she walks people through it. And like I said, if you have an Instagram account, she
mm-hmm.
actually sometimes when she posts her information of the day, she writes this long post on underneath the picture explaining exactly what she's thinking. But she definitely takes the time, and I think that's the reason why she's popular, is that
Okay.
she's trying to take her time to really give anybody the amount of information, because in her mind she's like, I'd rather give you more information than no information. So
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
yeah, so yeah.
Okay.
And
And do
she's
you know any?
got a lot. She's got a team of people. So like, I know like there's like how to contact her, and she's pretty good about like, I don't know if it's her, but whoever's been responding to me has been great. So
Oh, okay. So you like send her messages.
yes, yeah, it was
Oh,
pretty much kind of like tips and suggestions, and she was the one that told me well, I don't know if it was her people
okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
told me about like right now on this picture it says there's like the Live Richer Academy. That's something that she's just opened up where she does all her free classes, and so they basically said like that's an opportunity that anybody can take as long as that they're over 18, they can take those classes. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, check her out,
I
check
need
her out.
classes. I need like
Yeah.
learn a lot.
Yeah, no, check out her website. It's a really it's super easy to to manage. And yeah, and like I said, her Instagram account's been really, really helpful for me because it's funny, and it's just I appreciate her visuals, so, and her tips.
Okay.
And then these are some other folks as well who also do the same thing, the work that she does, but not that I mean, I might have a slight bias, but I think Budgetnista, Tiffany, I just love the fact that she just gives a lot of good information, and it also makes sense. She doesn't use like the big words, and if she does use the big words, like especially like finance words, she breaks it down. She basically tells you this
Yeah,
is.
that's what I need. Yeah.
Yeah, but these other Instagrammers, they also do some really good stuff as well. So you can also follow them as well. And then again, if we're updating our website, the financial wellness website. So we're gonna also put some stuff there, and we're gonna put some stuff for both domestic and international students, so they know how to, manage these finances and so forth, because we recognize that everybody's navigating it very differently at different circumstances. So
Yeah.
but let me stop sharing, and I'm gonna